Good afternoon. Today I'm going to make a chocolate pie. I'm going to start out with my crust, and I already have a video on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that up, get it in the oven, and I'll come back to show you how to do that. Okay, I've got my pie crust in the oven, and now I'm going to make the filling. And it's a chocolate filling. And it calls for 1 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I don't think any other chocolate would work in this recipe. I use Hershey's cocoa powder. You're going to need a half a stick of butter, 2 cups of milk, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 4 eggs, and you're going to separate the eggs. I'm going to do that now, because you're going to make a meringue for the top of it. Now there can't be any water in your bowl that you're putting your egg whites in. It has to be dry. There can't be any oil or anything in it, because that's what you're going to make your meringue in. Now you can use a 1/4 teaspoon of tartar, cream of tartar. It doesn't hurt, but you don't have to have it. 3 and 4. And I'm going to set my egg whites aside while I mix up my pie filling. This is a really good pie. I make a butterscotch one also. When I was little, that's one thing I can remember. Excuse me. Excuse me. My grandmother making was a fruitcake and a butterscotch pie, and I loved the butterscotch pie. On the other hand, back then, I did not like fruitcake, but I would give anything to have her recipe for that fruitcake, because she put a lot of work in it, from what I can remember. Now I'm going to set my egg whites aside, and I'm going to put my egg yolks right here. Now what you're going to do is I'm going to mix this in here. And you're going to put your dry ingredients in, because you're going to have to mix those up. You can't put your wet ingredients in yet, because your cocoa will not dissolve. It will cake up. So you mix all your dry ingredients. Here's my sugar, my cocoa, and here's my Argo. Here is the what's going to thicken it, my Argo. So you gotta have that. And you're gonna want to get the lumps out of your cocoa. I'm gonna pour my teaspoon of vanilla extract on in my milk. And I'm gonna stir this up real well. Now, the only way I really know how to incorporate this really well is I will start with putting my egg yolk in it and getting it really wet, and then I will add my milk a little bit at a time, a half of it. That's 2 cups, so I'll add a little bit at a time of a cup of it. And then the other cup, I'll show you what we're going to do with in a little bit. Mess. Y'all watch me make a mess. But it usually isn't good unless I make a mess. Okay, now I am going to incorporate my egg yolks. Okay. Spatula out so I can get all of my egg yolk out, because you're going to need all of it. And I'm using the pie paw crust recipe for my pie crust. because it's never let me down, and it is good. Now your egg yolks do help hold it together also, but you've got to have the Argo. I don't know what other kind of starches, cornstarch there is other than Argo. I'm sure there are some, but I've never bought any of the others. And one day I'll make the butterscotch so you can see that. I found that recipe and I made it, and it was as close to my grandmother's as I could remember. The nostalgia that come back when I ate it was unreal. My grandmother passed away when I was 12 years old, and we didn't have a really good relationship. My mother was the only child, and there was just some not very happy memories and not a lot of love shared in that home. But I am working on breaking all that trauma. Now I got that incorporated, so I'm going to take my milk and add a little bit at a time. And I'm only going to add half of it. I'm going to hold off on the other cup. And I'll show you. I've got my half a stick of butter in my boiler over there now on the stove. Okay, it's coming along. Add a bit more. Like I said, this is the only way that I know to keep it from, it's the only way I can mix it without it leaving lumps and not incorporating really well. And whenever you cook it, the Argo will thicken it up. Okay. For Thanksgiving and Christmas, I make sweet potato pies, I make homemade pumpkin pies, and pecan pies, and I will record those. Anything I cook like that, I'm going to record and put on YouTube. Anybody who's new to my channel, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscription button. Okay, I've used 3/4 of a cup. I'm using this so y'all can see it. I didn't want to use a deep bowl because you probably wouldn't be able to see it. And I have 1 cup left. Okay, now I am going to bring y'all over to the stove. And I have my half a stick of butter in my boiler. And I'm going to turn that on low and let it melt. It does melt. I will add my milk to it. Better turn that flame down because it is a big burner. It's a half a stick of salted butter. And you want to melt it first before you put anything in there. My cat's on the dryer. I need to go turn it back on for him. Any heat source, that cat loves it. He's not feeling good this weekend. I may have to take him to the vet Monday morning. but I'm watching him. He's eating and drinking. It's going to be a challenge. But I'm going to need the whisk and I'm going to need the spatula. Because you want to start mixing it with the spatula and then end off with the whisk. Okay, Ruby, try to get this in there good. Imagine that. I didn't make a mess. I better shut up before I do. Okay. I've got that on medium-high. And you want to stir it continuously. Don't leave this when you're cooking it. Don't leave it to do anything. Just stay right at your stove. Mix. And you want it to come to a boil. When it starts sticking to the bottom, I'll start using the whisk. Okay, that's melted. So I'm going to pour my milk in there. That's the last cup of milk. On my hot crust real quick, and it's looking good. It'll be done in just a moment. And I'm going to leave my oven on so that whenever I make my meringue, I can put it in there to brown. Stir it constantly until it comes to a boil. And your Argo is what really thickens it. The eggs help, but the Argo, it does the trick. And you do not have to wait for it to cool to put it into your pie crust, but you do have to wait for it to cool before you put your meringue on it. Okay, I'm ready to pour my filling into my pie crust. I want you to look at my pie crust. It's very flaky, but it's pretty and round. It's round too. And I'm going to mix this up really good. It into my pie crust. And with 4 egg whites, it's going to make probably a pretty tall meringue, which meringue's good. And I'll probably put 1/4 of a cup of sugar in my egg whites for the meringue. I don't think it needs more than that. But you do you. If you like a lot of it, you do it. You can't mess this pie up. If you're not a diabetic, put all the sugar in you want. And this I will let cool before I put my meringue on it. course, I'm going to taste it. Damn, it's good. Damn, it's delicious. Okay, I'm going to let this cool, and I will come back and do my meringue with y'all. Okay, I am ready to, my pie's cooled off, and I'm ready to make the meringue. And I'm going to put it on high speed. And when it starts to peak, I will add sugar a little bit at a time. I've got 1/4 of a cup here. Okay, I've got my meringue ready, and I'm going to put it on top of my pie. It's going to be tall. I've got my oven on 350. Well, actually, I bumped it up to 400 so it would brown quicker. I'm going to send a piece of this to a friend of mine. Well, a friend of mine, my husband's, John, in the morning, because he helps out around here, and I appreciate him. Okay. Put it in the oven and let it brown. And when it gets done browning, I'm fixing to bring it out of the oven. It looks really pretty. I think we'll enjoy that. I'm going to get to where you can see it really well. Thank you for joining me. I hope you try this recipe. If you do, drop it in the comments and let me know how it turned out. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Please hit that subscribe button and continue joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great weekend.